You know, people often ask me, Jeff, what's the secret? What's the habit, the mindset, the rule that made Amazon what it is today? And sometimes, they expect me to talk about technology, logistics, AI, or some billion-dollar strategy. But I'll tell you something I've never said publicly before, something very few people understand about success, or life. It's not the grand moves. It's the invisible habits. It's not the one big win. It's the tiny, consistent decision we make, every single day. And for me, one of the most powerful changes in my life came from something I now call the 9-minute rule. A small decision. A quiet habit. But it changed everything. Let me tell you how it started. Part 1. The day I almost didn't leap. I was sitting in a tiny office on Wall Street. High-paying job. Stable future. Polished shoes. But inside, I was empty. Every day, I walked into that office, and a voice inside me kept whispering, "This isn't it. There's more for you. But you're too scared to leap." I had an idea. A crazy one. To sell books on the internet, back when people didn't even trust the internet. Everyone told me it was insane. My boss literally laughed. My friends politely nodded. My family. Terrified for me, and I almost didn't do it. But one morning, I gave myself 9 minutes. I sat on the edge of my bed and asked myself, what will I regret more, trying and failing, or never trying at all? That was the first time I ever used the 9-minute rule, and it saved my life. Part 2. The 9-minute rule. So what is it? Simple. Every morning, before the world can get to you, before the emails, the news, the opinions, the noise, you take 9 minutes to ask yourself one question. What would my 80-year-old self thank me for today? That's it. Not 9 hours, not 9 pages of journaling, just 9 quiet minutes, to align with the future you're building. You ask, would my older self thank me for hitting snooze today? Would he thank me for avoiding that hard conversation? Would she thank me for scrolling Instagram instead of writing that book? It's small. It's simple. It's honest. And it brings you face to face with the one person you can't lie to, your future self. Part 3. Everything you want is on the other side of discomfort. Let me be real with you. Starting Amazon, it wasn't sexy. It wasn't glamorous. It was terrifying. We had doors as desks. We were packing books on the floor. I didn't know if we'd survive 1 year. But I knew something deep in my gut. I would rather live a life of, oh wells, than a life of what ifs. That's what the 9-minute rule does. It cuts through excuses. It silences fear. It reminds you that the pain of discipline is nothing compared to the pain of regret. Part 4. My grandfather's tears. I want to tell you something personal. I haven't shared this with many people. When I was a boy, maybe 10 years old, I was on a road trip with my grandparents. I was being a smartass, as kids sometimes are. My grandmother smoked cigarettes, and I had just learned how bad smoking was. So I calculated how many minutes of her life she was losing every time she lit a cigarette, and I announced it loudly, proudly. I thought I was being clever. But I looked over, and my grandmother was crying. My grandfather pulled over, walked around the car, opened the door, looked me in the eyes and said, "Jeff, one day you'll understand. It's harder to be kind than clever." I never forgot that. That lesson, that moment, is what powers the 9-minute rule. Because in those quiet 9 minutes, you remember, kindness takes courage. Forgiveness takes strength. Starting takes guts. Continuing takes even more. Part 5. I almost lost everything. There was a moment, in 2001, when everything almost collapsed. The dot-com bubble had burst. Investors were fleeing. People were calling Amazon. Amazon.toast. I was sitting alone in a meeting room, looking at the numbers. They weren't just bad, they were scary, and that voice came back. It's not too late to quit. Maybe go back to Wall Street. Maybe start something easier. But I gave myself 9 minutes. I asked my future self again, what would you thank me for? And the answer was clear. Fight. Stay. Build. I walked back in and told the team, we are not our stock price. We are our mission. We are builders. That year, we cut costs. We restructured. We hustled. And in the end, we survived. Part 6. The rule that no one talks about. Here's the truth: most rich people won't talk about this rule. Because it's not flashy. It's not something you can buy. And it can't be delegated. It's yours alone. But here's what I know: the quietest habits build the loudest lives. And the 9-minute rule, it makes you a warrior for your own future. Not just in business, in love, in parenting, in purpose. You sit with your future self, you look them in the eye, and you say, "I've got you. I won't let you down." Part 7. What I'd tell you if this was my last speech, if this were the last time I ever spoke to a room of people like you. Do you know what I'd say? You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to have the most resources. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You need 9 minutes of radical honesty every single day. That's it. Every morning, before the world can tell you who you are, before your doubts creep in, before you forget your power, you take 9 minutes. You breathe. You ask, "What would the person I'm becoming want me to do today?" And then, you do it. Part 8. Your life is not an accident. Let me leave you with this. Your life isn't a result of fate. It's not random. It's not luck. Your life is a sculpture, and every day, you pick up the chisel. The 9-minute rule, it's how you stop being reactive and start being intentional. Because one day, you will be 80. And when that moment comes, you won't remember how many followers you had. Or how much money was in the bank. You'll remember who you became. So ask yourself, did I live deliberately? Did I love deeply? Did I leave something better than I found it? If your answer is yes, then you didn't just live, you won. Thank you. Now go give your future self something to smile about. And remember, 9 minutes can change everything.